All right, episode 3. I don't even know what we're going to call this episode yet, but it is our 3rd episode. Things are, I guess, improving. We had technical difficulties again.
Just minor ones.
Just quick, easy solve. Didn't take too long to get through. But so what'd you think? How did episode number 2 turn out?
I thought it was pretty good, but I just want to mention one thing. That I talked about a DI track, and I talked mainly about hardware and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I guess there are other alternatives like software allowing the DAW or the DAW to do all the work. I mean, you could use that, and it's far cheaper, I guess, than the hardware. But I'm sort of a hardware guy, so I got a lot of hardware.
Are you sure about that? Did you test that theory before making that claim?
Yes. So. Yeah, I got a lot of hardware, so I'm used to doing it that way.
Welcome back to Pandemic Guitar, hosted by a father and son team of struggling podcasters. This is a show about all things with 6 strings and so much more. We think this should be an easy listen whether you are stuck in New York traffic or cruising an Iowa field in a John Deere. I'm the son, Tim, who believes dropping a pick into an acoustic sound hole should be classified as a musical pandemic, while Dad over there on the other mic would tell you to just punch a sound hole on the backside and call it a double acoustic. It's Rick.
Yes, it's me.
Yeah, I watched a video on YouTube earlier, one of my favorite street performers, and he has his version of a Fleetwood Mac song, and he does looping, so he does just bits and pieces and loops them together and then does solos and stuff. And I'm like, can't I loop in GarageBand? And
yes, you can.
You can. But it just, I don't know, it seemed really foreign to me. So I played with it for about 20, 30 minutes and then gave up.
Yeah, there's a way to loop it in GarageBand. I like some of the other DAWs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just depends. But most, if not all of the DAWs that I know of have some sort of looping mechanism to them.
Yeah, I know on the GarageBand iOS, it seems like they make it really easy for that. They make it so that you can create bits and pieces and loop it. And I haven't really played around with it a whole lot. I've seen a lot of videos where people do that. I've seen people recreate like really famous songs like Michael Jackson, Thriller and stuff like that just in GarageBand. So the video is just them or it's just the screen of the phone, and they just go through and create the entire song from scratch. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's you can do it. It takes a little bit of getting used to, mm-hmm. And it's a learning process. I mean, you have like the intro, and you have the chorus, and some of the other things in the outro, and the basically
bits and the pieces.
Yeah, and basically when you get that all down and you record them all. And you put it all together, you can actually get a pretty good loop out of it,
Right.
And, play lead guitar or sing or whatever you want to do. Or if you want to dance, you can dance too.
Or just try to find something that sounds good.
Right. I do that, believe it or not, I do that a lot with the drums. I use Easy Drummer. What I do is I just create a beat and I get a full measure and then I just copy that measure and just continue to copy it as many times as I want. I might change something. I might change like a cymbal or instead of the hi-hat, go to an open hi-hat or going to a regular cymbal during the track. But it's fairly easy to do once you get the hang of it.
I feel like one of these days, you probably need to walk me through that. Show me what it looks like and because you say you use these programs and you do these things, but I can't visually see what's happening.
Right. Well, you've heard some of the songs I've done.
Yeah, you've sent me a few things.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of them are just the same thing. I get a beat, let's say a blues beat or a rock, classic rock type thing.
Right.
And then what I do is I just play with it until I get something that I really like. And then I take and I put that in the I use the DAW to create that.
Right.
And then what I do is I save that off, and then I take and I enable the guitar track on there. And I play, of course, it's a dry track that I play on there, which means that even though I hear some distortion and I use a octave type thing, a sustain pedal type thing. Even though I hear that, it's recording the dry signal. And then what happens is that I take that signal and I play around with different effects, trying to get something that really sounds good to me.
But that's what I'm saying. So you're using a combination of hardware and software to produce bits and pieces and then bring them together to make something that sounds cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it makes sense to me when we just talk about it, but without actually like seeing something being created or built, it still seems pretty foreign.
It took me a while to do it. I don't know how many years ago, but quite a few years ago, I started working at it. And of course, it wasn't the best, but I played around and I finally got really pretty good at it, and that's what it is. It's just practice makes perfect, I guess.
So I've said this a few times. I'll say it again. I do watch a lot of YouTube videos, and Instagram has Reels. I don't jump on the TikTok, even though most of that TikTok stuff ends up on Reels. But it's short videos and basically allows everybody to be a 30-second movie star.
Yep.
So I see a lot of people between that and YouTube. They always do this comparison video, and there's a couple really good ones out there, and there's a couple that I have no idea who they are. Maybe they're just trying to make a name for themselves. I have no idea. But they always seem to compare things like cheap or inexpensive guitars to really expensive guitars and which one sounds better.
Yeah.
And, I think for me, the biggest problem that I have with those videos is that when they're talking about, you're talking about like a $200 guitar compared to a $3,000 or a $5,000 guitar.
Okay.
But what they always do when they talk about the $200 or cheap guitar is they always, or not always, but they seem to use the term beginner a lot.
Yeah, that's primarily because of it's inexpensive. A lot of people just getting into playing guitar will basically, you don't want to spend a lot of money, because if you're a beginner and you spend $2,000 or even $3,000 or $4,000 on a good guitar, then what happens is, if it sits around and you don't get into it, you can't figure it out. It does take a while to figure the whole thing out.
Sure. I mean, I'm getting close to 3 years and I'm still a super novice. So I understand that.
Right. But you can take a fairly inexpensive guitar, which most people would call a beginner type guitar, and you can add things to it to make it better. Like, to give you an example, sorry about the ums, but
all two of our listeners are probably used to it by now.
True. Anyhow, you can take a beginner and take a beginner guitar. Like, to give you an example, let's say a Squire, the Affinity series. Okay,
sure.
Even though it's a beginner guitar, you're talking what, $250 to $400 for that type of a guitar?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but is the $400 Affinity really a beginner guitar, or are you saying a $500 Fender is a beginner guitar?
No, I would say that the Squire is a beginner's guitar.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because most Fenders now are up there. I think the cheapest one I seen was maybe $600 the other day.
Yeah. I was going to say somewhere between it's probably going to be $500 or $600, I think, to get into a Fender.
Right, but a Squire you can get into fairly cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick them up used for around $100 if you find a shop that has one that just wants to get rid of it.
Sure.
The other thing is that the main difference between a lot of that stuff is the amount of time that goes into them. to give you an example, like on a $2,000 guitar, or even let's say $1,000 guitar, you might have on the neck, you might have what they call a rounded neck. And I'm not talking about the back of the neck. I'm talking about the fretboard, the edges of the fretboard.
Sure.
Instead of them being sharp, they're nice and round, and they're more comfortable for the hand.
Mm-hmm.
Also the frets, those metal wires that go on the fretboard there. Those there will have sharp edges on a lot of the more inexpensive guitars because they don't spend much time cleaning it up. So if you have the time, a little bit of time and the energy, you can actually clean those things up, and it plays like a great instrument.
Well, and that's kind of what I was getting at, I guess, in my mind, because the little that I've learned over time is, there is probably a difference in the quality of some of the woods, the materials, maybe, the electronics are of a better quality when you're spending more money. But if you go out and you find a more inexpensive guitar and you learn how to play it and you become comfortable with it, can't I, for the most part, shouldn't I be able to, upgrade electronics, maybe take it to a luthier and have the neck done up real nice and improve the quality of the instrument and keep playing that? Or is it really a thing where it's like, okay, I've outgrown this. Now I'm going to take it and trade it in or throw it in the corner, and I'm going to go out and buy a guitar that's twice the cost of that?
Well, I guess it depends. On an inexpensive guitar, if you upgrade it, like to give you an example, let's say one of the things, let's say you get a Fender Squire, let's say it's the Affinity series,
Mm-hmm.
and you pay, let's just say $240 for it.
Okay.
Plus
Brand new
tax.
from the store, all that.
Yeah, that's brand new.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that price.
Yeah.
And here again, color really doesn't matter. Color is only for the eye. It's eye candy, basically.
Yep.
But but you can get it. You can get it in a maple neck. You can get it in a rosewood neck, and that just depends on what you want to see. It's more of a curb appeal type thing. The main thing is that when you're talking about taking something like that, and then let's say you play it for 6 months, 7 months, you get really good at it, you can put like new tuners on it. That would help. The tuners on the Squire just aren't, and you can do that yourself. They're just not the best, but
Sure.
you can get a fairly cheap set. They're like $50 or $60 or something like that. You can even get them cheaper used. I've seen them for $20 used.
Well, now
eBay.
I want to kind of grab a pen here. So you go out and you spend $250 for the guitar. You decide to upgrade tuners. That's another $50. So we're at $300.
That's correct. Right, you're at $300.
Okay.
So then what you want? Then the next thing I would do is probably upgrade the electronics. And here you have a choice. You can either go out and you can buy the pickups separately, or you can buy a whole, what they call a plate with the 3 pickups. It's the pick guard populated with all the electronics on it.
Yeah. So I think I've seen it, a loaded pick guard.
Yes. Yeah. And you're going to pay, like, depending upon what's in there, you could pay anywhere from $150 on up to $350 for that. Depends on the pickups, because
Sure.
your Fender pickups, pickups are going to be a little cheaper. When you start getting up to like the Seymour Duncan and stuff like that, they're going to be a lot more expensive, or the Damasio pickups.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So
so you go on the cheap end that route, the $150. So what's
Right.
that? $450 we're at now.
Yeah, $450. And technically, at that point, you got a pretty good guitar at that point.
Yeah. But I guess for $450, and I get to learn a little bit, and I get to do some research, and so I gain a little bit value back from that, I would think.
Correct.
So 450, I'm invested into this guitar that I've learned on, I'm comfortable with. For me, that still makes more sense than going out and spending $600 for something brand new, when what am I going to do? Am I going to take this guitar that I've already spent $250 on, take it back to Guitar Box, and they're going to give me what, $60?
That is true. It's like anything else. You modify it and you put money into it.
Well,
Uh,
even if it's not modified.
yeah, if it's not modified, you still get the same price. They don't
Yeah.
care whether it's got Seymour Duncans in it or it has DiMaggio's
No.
or it has the cheap ceramic pickups that come with it. They don't care. They're just going to give you the one price for it because that's that's what they do.
Well, yeah, they're in the market to make money, which brings me to this. This actually just popped up a question in my head. I've seen guitars for sale private, say Facebook Marketplace or Reverb, and they have, for instance, the Squire Affinity, or at least that's what they call it, is an Affinity, but it's got a $200 loaded pickguard. Do I
Right.
really care about your customizations?
It just depends on what you're looking for.
True. I think
I
on
mean-
maybe on, I don't know. For me, I don't care about your customizations.
Me too. Because everybody has they customize it differently and they
Mhm.
do different things to it. I don't know what you did to it, so when I buy something like that, I really don't care. I'll give you basically face value for the guitar, and that
Yeah.
might be right or wrong, but still, I'm not going to pay you if you have a pick guard that's loaded in there and you spent the money on it. I'm not going to give you the $200 for the pick guard because
Maybe it's not the pick guard that you want. I mean,
That's correct.
you redid on my I don't have the Affinity, I have the Bullet, the
Right.
Squire Bullet. You redid the pickups and all of the electronics.
I did.
And actually the selector switch went bad once,
Right.
and
'Cause
that happens.
Yeah, what we did was I think we replaced the pickups, but we didn't replace any of the electronics at first. Or did we replace the
No,
electronics?
I think we did it all. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that we did it all. And then your screwdriver slipped when you were taking the pick guard off and put a scratch in it, and so we had to buy a
Nice.
new pick guard.
Yes.
But that was fine because I think the original pick guard was just flat black. So I was like, all right, cool.
Yes.
I'll just go out and get a new pick guard.
Yeah, it was I forgot how that happened. Usually I put a cover over it so that I don't scratch it. I put a mat and some tape,
Mhm.
but I don't know what happened in the screwdriver. All I know is that it had a nice scratch in it. So
Yeah.
we got
But that's all right. I
That's
went
it.
out and I found another one for a
Yep.
really good price, and I think it actually ended up improving the overall look of it anyway.
Yeah, they do. You can get all sorts of different pick guards. I mean, and colors. You can get 2-ply or 3-ply or basically one solid color. So,
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I obviously when I decided to start learning to play, I didn't want to go out and spend a whole bunch of money on a fancy guitar because, well, I've tried before and didn't work out.
yep, I know the feeling.
Yeah, so I went the cheaper route, something that I was like, oh, this is cool quality, or well, I mean, I know the name, it's Squire, right? So we got it for a great price, and I've played it every day that I possibly can, and I'm constantly learning stuff. And so I guess this is kind of why I watch those videos and why I want to talk about it, is because I'm always constantly struggling between, do I break down and spend $600 to $900 on a new intermediate level, if you will, guitar, or do I just take the instruments that I really enjoy playing and put a little bit of money into it and make it something that I like more than what I already have?
Right. True. And the other end of that is I have a lot of experience with Gibsons and stuff like that, and there
Sure.
was a time when I went out and I bought a Les Paul, and it had a very the edges on the fretboard were sharp, and so were the frets. So it wasn't very comfortable, but I did a lot of work to it. And here it's a USA made guitar, this particular one, and it was it the quality just wasn't there. Now I only paid like I think it was $650 for it.
Right. But
And
then fast forward, however many years, and now that's $3,000.
well, not quite. It's probably about 1,500 or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at is I'm just trying to get I'm trying to say is that there's a definite separation on, and it depends on what guitar you want to buy, what guitar you want to buy, because like I'm using Gibson for an example, and a $600 Gibson, and then I have a $600 PRS, and the PRS was made in Indonesia, and it just quality wise, it's just difference between night and day. But here again, labor is a lot cheaper in Indonesia.
Sure.
And then you go up to another PRS that I have, and we're talking almost I'd say about $1,500, and there's definite difference between each one of those PRSs. Just minor stuff. Mostly hardware though. And then from there you go up to.
And that's what I was going to ask is it a hardware difference, or is there a physical, like you can just feel the difference between the two?
It's hardware and the amount of time that they put into it. Yes, my PRS plays better than my one Gibson. However, I have a Epiphone, which is also a Gibson, and I believe that was made in China. That is the quality on that was very good. I mean, equivalent to my PRS, my cheap PRS.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, as you start going up, there's a difference between foreign made, foreign assembled, and stuff like that. It's a lot cheaper than the U.S. U.S. is more expensive, but when you start getting up to the really, really higher prices, you're going to start with the different hardware, rounding of the neck, little things that is going to make it easier for you to play. More. To give you an example, the distance of the oh, geez. Okay, here's a break right here.
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
No, it's the like, to give you an example. I've purchased guitars, very cheap guitars, where the intonation is off, and that's where the 12th fret, everything repeats itself, and the intonation is off, and you got to sit there, and it's just time consuming to adjust that stuff. Where on a more expensive guitar, that's all dialed in or fairly close, unless you change the strings.
Yeah, intonation can be kind of a pain in the butt, because I remember, what was it, maybe a year ago, something was off, something didn't sound right. And so I think it took like 2 or 3 days for you to explain what was going on and how to make all the adjustments and everything before it finally clicked.
Right.
So now I know how to do it. I still have to kind of look it up a little bit because I don't do it very often. But I mean, That's a big thing. But those are all things that either you can learn how to fix or make friends with somebody who knows how to fix those things.
That's correct. Or bring it to a professional.
That's kind of what I meant, is find that professional friend.
Yeah. The other thing is action. And action is a big thing, and what you're going to find is on the cheaper guitars, the action is the height of the strings away from the fretboard, and the further they are away, the harder it is for your hand to press those strings down. So the closer, the better. There are some stipulations in that, though. I mean, if you're a string bender like I am, you don't really want them very close, because what they call fret out, and as you're bending the string up, it frets out against the higher fret, and you get like it's a weird sound. It doesn't sound right.
I bet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you can only adjust action so much, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, without maybe replacing the nut, or you're limited on that front side to whatever your nut is, unless you're going to file down or replace it completely. And then there's just a little bit of adjustment that you can make on the bridge, if I'm even close.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, first of all, when you have to take a look at you have to take the strings off the guitar and take a ruler or level against the frets to see if they're all in line. In other words, they're all the same height.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that makes a difference because if they're not, then they either got to be filed or maybe you need to refret or something like that. Then you have to look at the nut to see what condition the nut's in. It might be a graphite nut or a bone type nut, and then you can work on the bridge after that. And also on the fenders, there's also another adjustment, and that's where the neck pocket is, where the neck fits into the body because fenders are not one piece guitars where Gibsons are.
Right.
And Fender, you can put a shim in there. You can buy a shim to help with that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can get them there's a few manufacturers that have them. So,
Huh.
but you can get like I don't know, it's like a millimeter, half a millimeter. I don't know. I shouldn't say millimeter. They're not millimeter. They're like super, super thin, but they're slanted. And what you do is you take the neck off and you can put these pieces in there, and then the neck is screwed against it, and you create a different angle on the neck, which
I mean,
could
yeah,
lower the
it
screen.
makes sense. I've never seen that done.
Yeah, before the company had that, a trick that we had to do is yeah. What we used to do is we used to take a thin guitar pick or a matchbook cover, and we used to slide it in there, and then tighten it down, and
Interesting.
that used to act as a shim to give the neck a little bit more angle.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do, I guess. Whatever
True.
works.
Yep.
Now, I've always wanted to learn how to do frets.
Yep.
So maybe that's something one of these days here in the near future we can find something to do a fret job on or something like that. Because I mean, you can watch, for me, I guess, you watch videos on the line, and they're just not as great as being able to physically see it in person and actually like use the tools and stuff like that.
Yeah. Frets do take quite a bit of time to do the first few times. After that, you get the hang of it, and it's a lot easier. You get to know what to do. But yeah, strings have to come off. I usually take the strings off. I usually pop the nut. Then what I do is I usually pull all the frets out. And here again, it depends on whether it's a maple neck or a rosewood neck. And then after that, I level the fretboard, because when you stretch strings and stuff like that, you might have little indentations in the fretboard, from pushing those strings up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So then after once that is done, well, I should have said prior to that, I make sure the neck is straight without making sure the neck is absolutely straight. So I might have to make an adjustment on the truss rod to get it straight. But I check for warpage in the neck, meaning a neck that just can move forward a little bit or backward a little bit is fine using the truss rod. But what happens is that it's a piece of wood, and if the wood is not, there's a lot of manufacturing that goes into it, and maybe the wood is twisted. And if the neck is twisted in any way, shape, or form, I don't touch it. It's usually garbage.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the beauty of a bolt-on neck. If the neck gets twisted, you just unscrew it, toss it in the corner, and replace the neck, right?
That is correct. Or to actually throw the neck out, take the tuners off, and throw the neck out.
Right, yes. Save as much hardware as you possibly can, because every great or inspiring musician must become a parts hoarder. You just have to do it.
Right.
Yeah. I've still got the old pickups and all the old parts from my Squire. They're just sitting in a Ziploc bag. Like I'm never going to do anything with it, but I can't throw it away.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It reminds me of a story, and this is a sort of a predicament that I got in, and yeah,
one of many.
One of many.
Yeah.
And back when I was working for his company, and I was just working part-time. It was just the weekends, and I'd saved up enough money. A friend of mine also, we both worked there, and we saved up enough money. He wanted to get a Fender Strat, beautiful, nice, natural color Strat. This is probably 70, 70, 71,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted a Gibson SG. So I went out and I got myself a Gibson SG, and it was a beautiful SG. It was just a standard, and it had it was the Heritage Cherry, so the body color, you know.
Yeah.
And what happened was is I got sort of involved in listening to a guy called Albert King, who bends strings all over. I mean, sounds like he bends the strings around the neck a few times, you know. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I mean, so, and we both basically started listening to him and started playing and started copying a lot of his licks and stuff. And what happened was is that, you know, we both basically needed a fret job. So we went to the local dealer and well, it was a home based, well, I shouldn't say home based. It was a business owned by family members, a family based business.
Sure.
And very, very, very nice people there. And I brought mine in there and I said, hey, I need a fret job. And he gave me a price on it and I agreed upon it. And he said, oh, it'll probably take about 2 weeks. So then 2 weeks came by and of course, I didn't have anything to play in 2 weeks. So then he says, we ran into a little bit of a problem. It's not going to cost you any extra money, but, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be about another 2 weeks. So here it is going on 4 weeks now, and I still don't have a guitar, and I haven't played. Okay, and I'm wanting to play. So what I did was I decided, well, I'm just going to go out and buy a Fender, because the guy behind the counter said to me, you know, he says, one thing nice about a bolt-on neck is, he says, when you want to refret it, he says, you pop the neck off, buy another neck, just throw it on there, you're done. And then send the other neck in for a refret, you know. But
Well, and that's what I was telling you, because you've told me this story before.
Mhm.
But that's why that's why one of these companies, they need to sell a kit where it's one guitar and two necks.
yeah,
Like almost kind of like a shotgun or something like that, where it comes with two barrels. So when one barrel gets hot, you can swap them out and let the other one cool. That's $1 million idea.
yep. But your average player ain't gonna, you know. I mean, I bend strings, you know, all over the place, and so I wear them down pretty fast. You know, I try to look for guitars that have jumbo frets on them,
Mm-hmm.
so that way they don't wear as fast.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know, they're higher and thicker, so there's more meat to the fret, so more metal there. So it helps out a lot with that. But you know, here, I finally got the Gibson back from the shop, and then what I did was I wore out the neck on the Fender. So I said, oh, what the hell? I'm just going to take and I'm going to I'm going to learn how to do this myself. And I'll say that the first time didn't turn out pretty.
it never does. You
Yep.
you went full Dexter on it.
Yeah, well, the frets didn't. I just had a hard time with it. Then what I did was I contacted the luthier that was in the shop there, and I asked him if you'd teach me on how to do it. And he said, yeah, no problem. So I went in for a few hours. I brought my neck in, and he showed me what I was doing wrong. And wow, you know, I was just amazed. And so after that, I started doing my own refretting. So I'm not really concerned anymore if a Gibson of mine or anything with a straight through neck like that, a non bolt on neck,
Right.
if the frets wear out, hey, so what? I'll just do the fret. Matter of fact, I have in the one corner of my room here, I probably have about 6 pounds of fretting wire. So
Because every hoarder needs 6 pounds of fretting
yes,
wire.
well, my brother wanted to refret one of his Gibsons, and he asked me to send him some. So I sent him enough to refret his guitar. So
There you go. You know what we should do? And I know this
What's
would be
that?
kind of weird. I don't know. Let me know if you're interested.
Okay.
Okay. Because I mean, we've talked about like all these things that you can do to, work on guitars, make guitars better, and so on and so forth. So, what if we scoured the local neighborhoods, searched the world wide webs, and find a guitar, on a cheap side, as cheap as like not super duper cheap, but not expensive,
Yeah.
And let's just go through, like, let's actually fix it up. Let's make it better. Let's see if we can take something for, say, $100 or less, put a little bit, maybe a little bit, as little extra into it as possible, and make it something that is equivalent to something, say, I don't know, $500.
Okay.
Is
like
it
it.
possible?
Yeah, it's very possible. I'll tell you what we can do is we can look for let's look for a guitar for around $100.
Okay.
I want to try to get something that I don't want. How about we just, I'll put the word out that I'm looking for a Squire
Okay.
and see what I can come up with, and hopefully by the next episode we can do some talking about what I found. If I found one, I may not find one.
Yeah, true.
You know.
With the way that thing, I mean, I think it was like, I don't know, 6 months ago, you could pretty much jump on Facebook and find everything and anything dirt cheap. I have not been seeing much out there lately.
Yeah, I think guitars have gone up in price.
Yeah. Well, they're made of wood.
Yeah, the used market. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. It sort of reminds me of a time I went into the local lunch place to and the waitress comes up and she says the $10 sandwich you ordered now is $30. I said, why? She says, the 2 toothpicks I stuck in there to hold it together. That's when wood was soaring in price.
Yeah, toothpicks have gone up.
And
by
the way,
asked me to take her somewhere fancy for dinner, so took her to Home Depot.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, the sandwich still was $10. She was only kidding.
Yeah.
But
yeah. No, I think that would be fun, and maybe we can take some pictures and throw it up on Instagram, or figure out a way to kind of walk people through the process. Maybe if we can't find it by next episode, if it takes us a little bit longer, then whatever, but just kind of an idea.
Yeah, it sounds great. I like that idea. I guess we still. Yeah, I get. Well, I guess what we can do is this is the way I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna basically, if I find something, I'm basically gonna go and I'm basically gonna pretend like I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
That way, if it's a piece of junk, okay, I just got more work to do. So, how does that sound?
That sounds good. But give me some insight. Like, what are you looking for? What are the bare minimums that you're going to look for?
6 strings.
Okay. We're not doing 7 or 8 or 12, nope. Right?
No, I'm a 6-string guy.
Okay.
So I wondered what it would be like to play one, but oh well. 6 strings is.
I thought about it one time. I went in and to Guitar Box, and they had a 7-string guitar sitting on the wall, and I'm like, but I only have 5 fingers. Like, but you still figure out how to play 6 strings, don't you?
Yep.
All right, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to look for. I want a brand name.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of cheap brand names out there, but I want to get something that's worth fixing up.
Well, yeah, I think you have to also find something that you can find parts for. I imagine.
Yes.
I don't know if some electronics, I assume, would probably work on any guitar.
Yeah, they would, but most of the pickups are all the same. You got the humbuckers or the single coils. They're all basically the same sizes. There are a few differences. PRS does make a little bit of a different type pickup for. The corners are a little different. I don't know if that's a different size or what. But I'll look for something that is within the $100 or under $100, and I'll walk in and basically ask questions and see what kind of answer. Well, here, if it's a store, if it's a home, I'm just going to ask questions. But to see what it was through and how old it is and what's going on with it, if there are any problems, and some of the stuff that I'm going to look for when I buy it, and I always do this even with new guitars, is I look at the neck. I closely inspect the neck, make sure the neck isn't twisted. If the neck is twisted, I don't care what it looks like. If it's a great color and if you really want it, it's not worth the the problems with the neck.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody would want to. I mean, unless you're specifically looking for just a body. I wouldn't know why you would pick up a bent or warped neck and then just be like, well, that's the first thing I'm going to replace.
Right. But you see, if you're going in for, like, let's say it's $100 guitar, you're going, and the neck is bad. If the guitar is only worth $100 used, why are you going to pay $100 for a bad neck?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you just have the body left.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, unless you were going to just build an entire neck from scratch, which I don't think that's what, like I said, I just want to find something and just make it better. I don't want to do something that's a complete rebuild. I don't want to have to sand it down to bare wood, repaint it, all that stuff. Let's try to keep it semi-simple.
Right. And I agree with you 100%. I'm just saying this is what I look for when I go. I ask a lot of questions, look at the neck, see if it's straight, see if it's, if there's problems with it. I inspect the neck, make sure that there are no cracks, especially on a Gibson. You get headstock cracks because they do, when they fall over, they do break. And at that point, they're still worth money, but still it's not as much as,
Right.
But I want to make sure there's no cracks in the body. The electronics, I could care less about. If there's problems with the electronics, we'll fix that.
Okay.
And also I don't mind a chip here and a ding here or something like that. It's usually acceptable on used stuff.
Yeah, my Samick has a whole bunch of wear and tear marks all over it. And it sounds so great. I like it, and it adds character. It kind of tells a story of the instrument.
Right, it's road worn.
Yeah, or at least drug across the kitchen worn. I don't know. Who knows? But all right, well, I guess that's going to be your assignment for the next couple of weeks.
Yep. And what we'll do is if I find one next week, we'll talk about it. And
okay.
I'm sorry, next episode, we'll talk about it. So I'll tell you what the condition of it is, and I'll go over some things with everybody about it. And then the episode after that, I will take it apart. I'll probably talk about the neck and stuff like that. And after that, the body on the last episode and the final outturn, the outcome, I should say, of what it will.
As long as we can compare that guitar with something around the $500-600 price range.
Yeah. I mean, no problem. I'll take plenty of pictures as I'm doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, if you do find something, shoot me a picture and I will put it up on our Instagram and let everybody know that we did, in fact, find a guitar that we are going to fix up for, I guess, can we call it Project Guitar?
I think we can. I think we should.
All right. So anyway, if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at Pandemic Guitar. No underscores, no spaces, all one word. And that'll let you know when each one of these episodes drop. And as we find other information or, kind of talk about certain things during the episode, we might share some pictures there. And there you'll have it. That's another episode. And we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. It goes fast.
It does. It's like you got to record every week just to release every 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's crazy.